All right, so those are some of the top stories that we are keeping track here on SA Today. We'll just give you a full bulletin of news once again at the top of the hour. Peter?
Thanks so much, Palesa. Now, the letter T in the acronym LGBTIQ represents a community that's marginalised in its own community. Whilst the South African Constitution protects them, transgender people still find it hard to get jobs and often have to explain themselves and their identity. As part of our Pride Month coverage, SABC's Matuba Mahlatjie put together this insert to highlight the plight of transgender people.
So my name is Ditshego Ditshego. Yes, very lazy parents. My name is my surname. People always think I made a mistake, but it is my name is my surname. And I am a journalist by profession. I am a PhD candidate. And I'm also a transgender woman and activist. And my pronouns are she and her.
While decorated with university degrees, Ditshego says her identity as a transgender woman makes it almost impossible to land a good job.
A lot of transgender women end up as sex workers because we find it hard to find jobs because employers don't know what to do with us, and we are a very qualified people. I know a lot of transgender graduates, but when you go for an interview, bosses almost see you as a minefield. They don't know how to deal with you. They don't know what to call you. They don't know how to step. They walk around eggshells around you. They literally see you as a lawsuit waiting to happen because they feel like, I know myself, I will say the wrong thing, I will misgender her or use the wrong pronoun, and she'll sue us, you know.
She says transgender people are forced to become activists in South Africa because of the ignorance that prevails. Many well-known people in the country have come out as either members or supporters of the LGBTI community. Some have even written about it, but society remains conservative.
People demand you to explain, you know, heterosexual people, I call it heterosexual privilege, straight privilege, where people feel that because I'm straight, I'm right, and because you're not straight, you're somehow wrong. And sometimes it's not even, so they feel like they deserve an explanation. And I found myself in situations like that, and I find that a bit unfair because, you know, when people want information about, I don't know, a soccer game or an album, or they want lyrics to a song, they don't hesitate to go on the net. But, you know, with things like this, they feel like, I'm not going to go on the net, you are going to explain it to me.
If you've just joined us, welcome to it. You're listening to The Gay Agenda with me.
Many African countries still use the colonial anti-gay laws to suppress expression or dialogue about sexuality and gender identity. South Africa, with its progressive constitution, still has a society that won't accept people like Ditshego. Now the question remains, what is their recourse?
All right, let's continue highlighting Pride Month here on SA Today. Ditshego joins me now in studio to explore the victories and the challenges that remain of the LGBTIQ. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So help us clear up this T in this acronym, because I think a lot of people get confused about what is transgender? Is it cross-dressing? What is it?
I mean, there's a lot of people who are transgender and don't even know that they're transgender. So there is a lot of confusion around the T itself. But what it basically means is people who are born in the body that they don't identify with, or who are assigned, rather, at birth, the body that they do not identify with. So in my case, I was born male, but clearly I am a slay queen.
You're born male, but you feel female, you act female, and
behave the works. Yes, and so that's basically what it means. It's someone whose gender identity is not aligned with their assigned birth, and that's why when we do change, we call it a gender realignment surgery. Is what it's referred to now. Yeah.
Okay, so it's Pride Month, and this acronym. A lot of people still dealing with... In fact, let's start with the gains, because Botswana yesterday, everyone is celebrating there, and they're beginning a journey that South Africa has been on for some time. So what are the gains over time when we got this amazing constitution that basically said everybody's allowed to live their lives?
Listen, the Constitution is great, and we are so happy to have it as a sort of form of recourse and reinforcement. However, it's not entirely a lived experience. It's not everybody who gets to benefit from this beautiful and liberal and forward-thinking Constitution of ours. Being a South African, being a black South African woman in 2019, I mean, it means a lot. It means I can vote, which I just did, and there's many other victories that we do enjoy. But sadly, the road still to come is longer than the gains that we have made. But we always do feel the need to mention the gains because they're not nothing, and we really have made gains. We do have a health system that, although is understaffed and somewhat inadequate in many ways, still allows transgender people to have realignment surgery for free. I'm using taxpayers' money, and those are some of the gains that we've made. We also have programs, HIV interventions, where drugs such as PrEP and PEP are freely given to the LGBTI community, who are unfortunately still considered a high-risk society. But we do count that as one of the gains, the fact that we have access to these incredible drugs for free.
All right. So, what are some of the challenges that you still face, particularly as a transgender woman?
Firstly, just people confirming who you are and validating, and it's as simple as a person using the correct pronoun. But the challenges are vast, and some of them could be even performing the most mundane task, like transgender women in the townships who have to use public transport is a daily nightmare for them, and also just using a public bathroom, something as simple, something that you as a very fortunate and blessed heterosexual man do not have to think about, can be...
so what is the challenge for you with the bathroom? Do you instinctivally want to go to the female bathroom?
No, I do use the bathroom, but you always run the risk of somebody sort of like finding you out and maybe protesting or laying a complaint with the management of the building, or claiming that they don't feel safe, especially if you haven't had your realignment surgery or you haven't had your hormones. And I'm very privileged, I suppose, in the sense that I sort of look very much like the gender I identify with, but not many transgender women pass is the word, so the challenges for them are even greater, and they have a different struggle altogether.
So what about work itself? Getting a job and then working in the workplace, colleagues, what's that like?
Just even getting a tertiary education can be a very difficult task, because there's a lot of bullying, there's a lot of harassment, humiliation, there's a lot of confusion. So that results in a lot of transgender people not graduating in the first place. So a lot of us aren't even fit to enter into the workplace. But for those of us who navigated those toxic heteronormative spaces and managed to get our multiple degrees and are competent enough to do the jobs, employers still find us to be a sort of difficult area, with this gray area where we have the skills, but they're afraid to hire us because they literally think we're a lawsuit waiting to happen. They think they're either going to refer to us in the wrong gender, or for us, basically hiring us, they feel, is a sort of minefield, and it's just bombs waiting to go off. So also in terms of employment, it does become a huge problem, because they don't know where to place us. And we make it very clear, I make it very clear, I've made it very clear from the beginning of the interview that I am a black woman, but employers would still struggle to grapple with that, and that those sort of issues are sort of what makes it so hard for them.
Do you face any kind of harassment in the workplace based on the fact that you're transgender?
People are very curious, so you do get a lot of awkward questions. I don't know if that counts as harassment, but people want to know. Also, people sexualize you or not. So even if people are not physically going to touch you, because they are aware of your rights and they are aware of labor rights, and that sort of, we are in a professional work environment, and there's certain codes of conduct that we're supposed to follow. But there is still it's very thin, but it's still very there. It's you're bombarded with questions. People are curious, and sometimes you want to answer them because you want to teach, but sometimes also it's just you don't want to play into a perversion or just be supplying somebody with information.
The curiosity of some kind.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about practical things like home affairs and ID books and things like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just Home Affairs, it's everywhere where you have to present. So it's also the drivers, when you have to get your driver's license, or someone like me who already has a driver's license and an ID, and I walk around like this, but when I have to present the driver's license or a form of identification, even at a bank, banks are actually the worst. Banks are worse than Home Affairs, because this is my money that I work for, but I don't look like the person in the ID. So sometimes if I have to present some sort of identification, there is clearly not an alignment, and you find people having to call their managers to verify my identity and that sort of thing. Hospitals are also quite a difficult space to navigate, because you have health practitioners like nurses who look at you and then ask you to undress and find something they clearly didn't expect, and then turn you into a spectacle and call their friend and call the other friend, and next thing you know, you have 9 nurses laughing at you, and you're a hashtag and you're a joke. So there's many sort of what people call sort of remedial tasks is what they are. The challenges aren't huge, you know. It's the small things, the daily everything, just going to get your money, your own money.
Like it's a daily struggle in one form or another. There's always something that is reminding you that you've chosen a difficult path, actually, in fulfilling what you believe is what's good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. The choice wasn't in the path. The choice was just to embrace it, because I was born this way. So the choice is never in who I am, because if I had a choice, I really just would be an ordinary citizen of South Africa. I'd have 2 kids and I'd be a Kaizer Chiefs fan, but I'm none of those things. So it's not a choice, is what it is.
So how do we move forward? Because part of this journey is going to be helping explain to people who genuinely, and I don't know whose fault it is, they just don't understand. They just don't get it. They say, Batong, what are you doing?
I think for me, what has been one of my greatest victories is to teach people. We're currently working on a program where we want to introduce LGBTI love stories, LGBTI history to primary school syllabus. And of course, we've come under scrutiny, people saying we want to convert their children, and that's not what we want to do at all. We just want to, I don't like this word, but to normalize us. So for me, what has really worked is to teach people. And I aside from my job as a journalist, I'm also an activist. So I don't mind people asking me these questions. I put myself out there and I stand on the soapbox and I say, what do you want to know? Here I am. But not all transgender people are activists, and not all of them want to be berated with questions and so forth. But for me, the greatest tool is educating people and to teach them as early as possible, so they know we exist and we're not a new thing, we're not a trend, it's not in fashion. We've been around for decades and we're not going anywhere.
So what do you tell a young person during Youth Month who's struggling with this? Because, just getting into puberty is a drama all by itself. And then you're finding that you're having this conflict with this gender that you've been assigned at birth. What do you say to that young person now?
There's nothing wrong with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Is what because society and religion and tradition and our customs, all these powerful entities tell us that there's something wrong with us. And the one thing I want to tell to every young person who's going through this, who's watching this, is there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, and you will get it right someday. It's not easy, but it's not the end of the world either.
Right. I'm so glad that you've left us with a positive message like that. So, Ditshego squared. I'm sure you've heard that a few times.
Yeah, quite.
Thanks so much, Shadi, for coming through and sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me.